Hello and welcome to the last tackle. We've reached the round 10 of the Betfred Super League, and this weekend we've got international action, a double header, England versus France, which we'll be talking about later in the show. But I'm delighted to welcome Kevin Brown and Paul Sculthorpe. Gents, are we well?
Good, thank you.
All good, thanks Mark. Yep.
Good to see you. Well, you've got a smile on your face. Were you beginning to get a bit worried? 2 defeats on the bounce for your beloved Saints.
Oh, for Saints? No, I knew they'd come good. Yeah, it's been a rough old few weeks for Wello and the team, but certainly turned things around last Thursday against Warrington.
They started really well, didn't they?
They did, yeah. I think it was the Saints of last year or the Saints of previous years. I thought they looked far more ruthless in defence. The speed of line, the intensity. I just thought they looked back to themselves and still missing a number of first choice players. What you would think were in that first choice 17, but the guys who come in certainly did a job.
Because going into that game, we'll talk about Warrington in a moment, Kevin, but going into that game, Saints had won 4, lost 4. Look, no one was writing them off, but people were beginning to ask questions. Have they got the hunger? Have they peaked too early with the World Club Challenge? I mean, Alex Walmsley sat here last week and said the idea of peaking early was rubbish.
Yeah, and probably expectations with St Helens is because they don't just peak at the end of the year, they're good all through it, and that's what they've been for the last 4 years. But I agree with Scully, the line speed is back. Saints look back, and the good thing about Saints is regardless who's playing in that team, when they're on, it doesn't really matter. They play well as a unit, and I thought they were fantastic. Warrington a little bit of a wobble, but yeah, Saints, Johnny Lomax, Dodd, Wellesby all stood up.
I wanted to mention Johnny Lomax. How good was he?
Yeah, he was outstanding, wasn't he? I think like all great halfbacks, there's one of them here. The best when they're running, and Johnny's a run threat. To be able to create space for those around you, you need to be a run threat, and he was that. Come up with some fabulous players, great footwork for his try as well. He just looked back to himself.
So obviously you're sat here. Are you confident enough for the Saints fans watching? You're going to be there at the end of the season?
Yeah, I don't think I was never thought anything else. And yeah, well, people were asking questions of why.
I suppose a new coach as well, isn't there?
Yeah, there's going to be things, and Wello's got his own ideas, and there's things that are going to be changed. But the quality of the team and the squad is still there, and like you say, it was a different start to the year for Saints with that game in Penrith. You can only talk about that for so long, and then you've got to get back to business. But Thursday was good.
What about Warrington then? Obviously won the first 8. That's 2 defeats on the bounce.
Well, after 7 games, everyone, and including a lot of the Warrington players and staff, were saying, let's look at the next 3 weeks. And if you look at that next 3 weeks, they've probably failed against the big tests. And they'll be really disappointed. I think they'd have took 8 from 10 at the start of the year and they'd have snatched your hand off. But after 7 games, I think the breaks come at the right time for them, the international break. I think they do need to reset and go again, because they didn't just get beat at the weekend, they got well beaten. I went to the game against Wigan the week before and they looked void for ideas. They didn't look like they could get through that Wigan defence. So yeah, there's a few things that they need to fix, albeit they'll be happy with where they're sat on the table.
Let's move to Friday's games. Castleford versus Hull KR. Castleford were 7-6 up after an hour.
Yeah, and I thought it was another step forward. I've been a little bit disappointed with Castleford at the start of the year, but this game I thought the resilience and character that they showed. There was a period in the first half where they kept Ryan all out on the left-hand side, and then they bundled the opposite winger into touch, and I thought that looks like a team that's galvanised now. They look together, but unfortunately they came against one of the best teams in the competition, and Hull KR now a Super League record for them. So yeah, I think they'd have won most games, but unfortunately they came against a very good Willie Peters side.
And I keep mentioning him every week, but how good is Mikey Lewis?
He's outstanding, isn't he? Great to see him get his opportunity with England. I've worked with Mikey at the England Knights, and he's a great kid. Talented player. Fully committed, and he's an out-and-out competitor. And going forward for the future of the England side as well, he's the kind of player that you want. And he did. I think that spine of Hull KR, him, Abdul, Jez Litton, I think have been outstanding this year. And Hull KR certainly not out of post points, but they're defending as well now. back up what Kev said there on Cass as well. Quick mention for Andy last, and I thought it was a far improved, Castleford performance. He said just real resilient. It was the effort-based areas that they'd improved on. The attitude-based.
Lee beat Leeds 26. Kev, Derek Beaumont doing a brilliant job off the pitch promoting the club. Now, what they have done at Lee is signed experience and it's showing. But it was a Championship Player of the Year I thought was outstanding last week, Edwin
Ipape, he was so good last year and he's brought that form this. He scored a couple of tries at the weekend and just to go on with what you said about Derek, he's done a great job off the field, but it's important.
Not sure about his jackets, but
yeah, no, his jackets are horrendous, aren't they? But no, it's great to see that the crowd.
He's got people
full.
talking about Lee, hasn't he? That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's brilliant But again, the product on the field's the most important thing. If he does all that stuff off the field and they turn up and get beaten convincingly every week, people will stop coming. People don't want to go and watch a show. They want to go and watch a show on the field, and that's what they're getting at the minute. I think the gamble that he put in last year, where he built a Super League squad in the Championship, and they got up and it was quite easy. But Lachlan Lamb, Edwin Ipape, the front rowers Asiata and Amon have just been terrific and brought that. And it's not like a team that's been built overnight. It's been a gradual process. And Lammy, definitely, he deserves a big pat on the back as the coach too.
What about Leeds, Scully? Really inconsistent this term, aren't they? 1-5, lost 5.
Yeah, they're inconsistent. And people were talking about Leeds before the season started, and I never ever thought that. I never ever thought they'd be in contention of winning trophies because of that, their inconsistencies. I think there's too many players not performing.
What about one of your old clubs, Salford? They keep doing it. 1-6, lost 4 now.
Well, yeah, and there's a bit of nail biting at the end of this game.
But they're dug in to win this one, didn't they? Which is a sign of a decent team.
Oh, it's great, and the only negative I've got with Salford is the numbers of people watching them. I think just over 3,000 at Lee. They're getting the fans, and the brand of football that Paul Rowley's got Salford playing, people should be packing that place out because the players deserve it and the club deserves it. Now, there was a try in that game that Joe Burgess, he messaged me, he said, my last 5 metres was like your first 5 there, Kevin. I watched it. I didn't know whether it was a compliment at first, but he was dying over the line, and Tom Johnson was so close to catching him up. But yeah, they showed a lot of grit, but very, very lucky it wasn't a draw because of the goal that was missed right at the end.
Also on Sunday, Hull Huddersfield. That was massive for Tony Smith. He won the first 2, then lost 7.
Yeah, they desperately needed it, didn't they? Hull FC. Been an awful start to the year for Tony and his team. But Huddersfield must be, Watto must be so frustrated. Just the inconsistency. You look at that. That was probably one of the concerns looking at this Huddersfield side. They've got so many mavericks in that side. You look at Will Price, Lola here, Jake Connor. Individually, good players who can win matches on their own. But can they do it week in, week out? And that's the thing that Huddersfield are struggling with at the moment.
And the Mavericks, I don't think they're being released. It's sort of they're being constrained. I think, whenever they get a penalty, they kick the 2, whether it's they're up by 2 or losing, they kick the 2. And I think you've got so many good attacking players.
Does he know his best combos yet then?
Definitely not. Definitely not. I don't even think they've all been fit at the same time.
I think that's a sign of confidence as well. I remember watching one of the games and I think they were losing by 4 and they got a penalty and kicked the goal. Losing by 4, losing by 2, there's no difference. If you're going to back yourself and you've got players that you've built a team there on attacking flair, back yourself to score points.
Whenever you were in the best sides or you were playing against the best sides, you never even thought about taking the 2 when you had so much confidence. And I think subconsciously, when you're being told take the 2, this patient approach just isn't working for them. They've got one of the best squads. They're spending a lot of money on that squad, and their attack is poor. And from working with Watto personally, it's strange because I know how good of an attacking coach he is. So they've got all them really good attacking players. They've got a really good attacking coach, but it's not working.
Well, Watto was that kind of player, wasn't he? He was a flair player.
Yeah.
So it's funny, like you say, Huddersfield have gone down that very safe route.
And what about top of the table? I won't ask you. Wigan, top of the table. Matt Peate's doing a very good job second season.
He is, and I think the fact that Bevan French has gone to fullback, I thought, look, when Jay Field got injured, I thought that's it. I don't know where they're going to get a 6 from. Shorrocks has come in at 6 and been an absolute revelation, and the balance they've got in that squad. Shorrocks defensively, he's showing that attitude, but then whenever Bevan French gets the ball, it's either a try or a try assist. He's just creating so much problems for the defences at the minute, and when Jay Field comes back, I don't know where he plays. I'm not sure. He'll definitely get in the side, don't get me wrong, but I'm not sure he drops straight back into full-back.
How good is this Wigan side then, do you think?
Yeah, well, what they've got what Wigan have always had. They've got that resilience, that grit, yeah. Aggressive. And Josh Shorrocks, he's not going to create anything on attack in regards to flair, but what is another body who will fight for everything. And like I say, when you've got players like Bevan French at the back, when you can strangle teams out the game, and then you've got players like French who can do something out of nothing. And I thought when Wigan moved him to full-back and they moved Field to 6, I think it was the league game, I thought you got a completely different look at Wigan, because I think they were struggling on attack to create that. So like I said,
I like
Field's back as well.
The way Smithy's going about his game at the minute as well, he's typical Wigan, and he's getting under the skin, he's doing it for big minutes, and he's one player I'm really looking forward to watching in that international arena this weekend.
And what about Wakefield? Where is this win going to come from?
Well, I don't know. They need to score some points. I think that on average they've played 10 games now, and it's under 6 points a game. It's horrific, the record of attack, what they're doing, and whether it's they're not chancing their arm, but defensively they don't look too bad. They're quite good defensively, so I just think they need another option apart from Mason Lino.
They've took Rowan Mills, haven't they, on a 2-week loan from UKR this week. So I mean, he's a creative player. That's obviously Mash has recognised that's what they're lacking. Yeah. So we'll see how that goes.
Right, let's turn our attention to the Challenge Cup. We had the draw for round 6 on Monday, live on the BBC. We brought you Batley last weekend. Batley beating Keighley. Alex Walmsley on co-coms was excellent. So the draw for round 6. Catalan Dragons versus Warrington Wolves. Castleford Tigers versus Hull. York City Knights versus the London Broncos. Halifax Panthers versus St Helens. Hull KR versus the Batley Bulldogs. Wakefield Trinity versus the Lee Leopards. Leeds Rhinos versus Wigan Warriors. Wigan, of course, the holders. And Salford Red Devils versus Huddersfield Giants. Right, Kev, some cracking ties.
There is. I'm looking forward to the Salford Huddersfield one. I think the fact that the coach of Huddersfield has done so well in the Challenge Cup, albeit with Salford, I think there's a little bit of rivalry there now, and they're going in a little bit under strength and going against the Salford side that I think they'll really fancy that. And Watto desperately needs this competition to sort of kickstart the campaign, because in the league they've been faltering a little bit. But the Leeds-Wigan game, that's going to be mouth-watering. And then you look at York and London, a championship side will get through, and that's really good for the game too.
We're going to have a championship side in the last 8, which is great, isn't it?
It's great, and I think, whoever it is, I think they'll be hoping for a home tie against one of the big hitters so they can get them pounds and pence totting up. But no, it's great, and that's what the Cup's all about. Giant killing, looking forward to the draw, and getting a good draw and getting a home tie is great for the clubs.
Scully, ties that have caught your eye?
Yeah, obviously the obvious one is Leeds and Wigan as well. And it'd be interesting to see how Leeds take this on, because how many times have we seen, you're having an awful time in Super League, and then there's a cup game and it can completely turn your season around, or it's a different mentality, a different competition. I'm looking forward to the Halifax and Saints one as well. It takes us back to obviously when I was playing at Saints, when Halifax were in top flight, had some great games at the Shea, and that's one that I know the Halifax fans will be looking forward to.
And we enjoyed the game at the Tottenham Stadium last year, but it's great to be back at Wembley, isn't it? 12th of August.
I loved it at Tottenham, but the history behind Wembley, growing up as a kid, playing at Wembley, it was everything, it was the dream, and it's still the same. Wembley's still got that patriotic feel to it, so when you're walking out at Wembley, all them players that are still in the cup will dream of doing that, and the fans going down there too, there's a lot of good memories for all different variations and reasons.
Yeah, growing up, you wanted to play at Wembley, didn't you?
You did. It's what we've all grown up. Super League's 25 years old, but the history of the Challenge Cup, it's what all young rugby players and us retired ones as well have grown up, watching, wanting to emulate that, and as Kev says, you know, to be able to say that you walked out of Wembley in a Challenge Cup final is iconic.
We will bring you a live game on the Sportsman as well. We're just waiting to see which game it's going to be. It's not going to be Leeds-Wigan, by the way. I think the BBC might pick Leeds-Wigan. But we'll be bringing you a live game here on the Sportsman.
You're watching the Sportsman Rugby League.
The home of Betfred Super League online.
Tune in to Last Tackle every Wednesday at 6 o'clock.
So we'll announce the live game very, very shortly who will be showing in the Betfred Challenge Cup. So keep your eye on our social media for that announcement. Right, England are in action on Saturday at Warrington. They're playing France. Obviously, we've got a very good record against France. We've got the women's first of all, which we'll talk about in a moment, at 2 o'clock, and then the men's at 4:30. Sean Wayne has named his 19-man squad. 15 debuts. You've only got Ben Curry, Kai Pez-Paul, Jack Welsby, and skipper George Williams, who have made an England appearance before. Obviously, look, Scully, you know a lot of these with your role with the Knights. A lot of young players.
Yeah, there's a lot of young players, and there's no doubt when his focus is on, you know, long term as well. You know, towards that 2025 World Cup in France. Disappointed the way that the last World Cup finished, and then all eyes on the next one. So yeah, no, I think it's a real exciting squad, and I think we'll see plenty of enthusiasm out there as well. And there's a lot of them players who've been picked. Not only are the young players who will be potentials in the future, but you know, some of the form players in Super League. You know, we mentioned before, Mikey Lewis, Jez Litton from OKR.
Mikey Lewis completely deserves this, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. You know, and he's been through the Knights programme. He's probably the outstanding fullback, scrum half, in Super League at the moment, and he deserves his chance. So it'd be great to watch him on the big stage.
Obviously, the World Cup semi-final still hurts, doesn't it? But hopefully, England can build on this feel-good factor that we got from the World Cup, and hopefully prepare for the next one in France.
And that's the big one, the preparation. And like Scully said, he's been part of that programme, and the next progression for these players is a international cap and a full international cap, and doing it on the big stage. And I'm really excited to see quite a few of the players, Morgan Smithies, Jez Litton, who's been playing well at OKR, and just how they play with each other. You know, Lewis Dodd actually getting that jersey on his back. I think he'd have been a definite last year if he hadn't have had the injury. So there's a lot of players there on form. I would have liked to have seen a few more experienced players in there with them, but you know, the squad, you can't complain with any of the names, and I'm really looking forward to seeing George Williams lead the side, and if he can replicate the form, especially in the first 8 weeks of the competition, then we're in for a real good captain there.
George Williams, a skipper. I mean, look, he was one of the outstanding England players in the World Cup, wasn't he? And he's brought that form into the Super League.
Yeah, he has. He's carried on. You know, I think that World Cup come at a good time for him, didn't it? After a tough season with Warrington. And George showed what a quality player he was for England, and he's carried that into obviously his domestic season with Warrington this year. So fully deserves the shirt. You know, he is a leader. He is a leader on and off the field. He's got the experience, and I think it'll be great for a lot of these young players who are coming through.
Pulling on the England shirt is a very, very special occasion, but it'll mean even more this Saturday because the England shirt has been designed for a very special cause.
Incredibly proud of my time in the sport. The sport means a great deal to me. It's given me everything I've got, probably more so the friendships and memories that I've got. So to see the shirt behind represent three things that I love dearly: the sport Rugby League, International Rugby League in England, the M&D community, and of course Rob Burrow. You combine those three and it's very, very powerful, and delighted to see the shirt. It's designed on an England shirt going back to about 2012. Obviously it was red and white, but with the M&D colours on it now, that same design, and it's really fitting and special. You know, Rob is celebrated in this way, the impact and how great it was an England shirt.
Because here comes Ellis, and Burrow is a flying machine just to his left. Up he goes, scooting away.
For Rugby League to get behind it and and sharing it, I think is incredible. And those guys who get to wear the shirt will feel 10 feet tall having worn it, and there's some irony in that because Rob was only 5'4", but he's been a giant and continues to inspire everybody, and I'm sure the guys who get the chance to wear it will be absolutely inspired. Please keep supporting the MND community, and of course our good friend Rob Burrow. You're all making a massive difference, and you're helping provide hope to a community that really need us.
And King Charles, if you're watching, knight him. Make him Sir Kev. He deserves it, doesn't he? What he's done is phenomenal.
He does. He's been outstanding, hasn't he, for Rob and the MND world.
Great to see that the shirt will be raising some money for MND.
Yes, nice touch by the RFL and England Rugby League, to do that. Rob's he's one of the England greats. He's an iconic figure within our sport and England Rugby League, and great to see, as we always do. I think Rugby League are the best in the world at looking after our own, and the way people have got behind Rob since his diagnosis, no more so than Kev, obviously. But this is another great touch and another way of raising awareness about MND and raising vital funds to help that research.
Kev, we often knock Rugby League amongst ourselves, don't we? But what the Rugby League has done for the MND community, especially Kevin Sinfield as well, has just been phenomenal.
Yeah, and the correlation with the shirt as well, it's the pride, the passion, but the togetherness that when you play for your country, that's what all coaches want, and that's what Kevin, everyone has done in the Rugby League family when one of our own comes on hard times. So it's great that there's going to be a celebration with a kit. It's great that there's going to raise awareness and hopefully raise a lot more money, because it's I think Kev's line is it's not incurable, it's just underfunded. So if we can get to a stage where we can, as a Rugby League sport, help that cause, it'd be great.
And well done to Adrian Morley, who was sat there last Wednesday. He completed the London Marathon, not in his PB, but he completed the London Marathon for the MND Association as well. So let's hope you raised a few quid, Moz, for a brilliant cause, and well done to him. He's going to do the Leeds Marathon in a couple of weeks as well. Let's turn our attention to the women's England squad. Jodie Cunningham is going to be the skipper of the England squad, the 31-year-old, of course. St Helens, brilliant job she's doing at the RFL as well, trying to expand the women's game.
Yeah, she's a bit of a tallies woman, isn't she, for the women's game? Obviously, a great ambassador for the Rugby League World Cup. I thought Jodie did an outstanding job over them probably 3 or 4 years in promoting that and promoting the women's game. And I think thoroughly deserves, the England captaincy. Emily Rudge has done a fantastic job, and now obviously it's Jodie's turn to lead from the front. Outstanding player, and will no doubt inspire more girls to play this great game.
8 Saints players in the squad.
Yeah, for a number of years they were the leaders, weren't they, out there? But I mean,
but York are doing well. The Leeds are doing well.
Yeah, it's great that the game has improved, and you look at some of the other results, with the likes of Warrington and Wakefield girls, and it's just the further reach that the women's game has got, and the strength within depth. That there is more competition in these games, and as you say, I think York are the team to beat at the moment.
Yeah, 7 York players in the women's squad. I think it's great that the women are on the same day playing as the men's. Same we're going to do in the Challenge Cup final as well.
Yeah, and I absolutely love watching the women's game. It's completely different to watching the men's game. There's not as much wrestle. It's a little bit easier on the eye, I think. The attack's great. It's a bit more open, and the fact that the women's NRL now are starting to poach the players from over here shows how strong the game is becoming. Of course they will. And Stuart Barrow actually said he believes that every single player in that England side could go and play in the women's NRL. And we don't really want that. We want to watch them over here. But it's great for the young girls coming through that they've got aspirations of being the next Jodie Cunningham.
Stuart Barrow is the new boss, but let's hear from some of the squad.
France are a team that you can't underestimate. They're very, very strong and they're very dominant.
Never underestimate what the French can do. France have already come on loads. When we played them last year, we could see the progress that they'd made. They've also been heavily involved and progressing a lot domestically.
They're going for it here, and Borac has got over the Catalan goddess.
It'll be a really tough side.
They'll be chomping at the bit because the World Cup is at their home, and I think that's a massive occasion for Rugby League, and I think especially for the women in France.
And Jodie Cunningham gets the second half off to an ideal start for England.
Great opportunity, get down to Warrington and watch a double header of what will be fantastic Rugby League.
So Jodie Cunningham is the England captain. So women kick off at 2, the men at 4:30 at Warrington. Get yourselves down. It's the road to the World Cup, which is in France in 2025. Right, just to wrap up, obviously no Super League games this weekend, Kev. We're at round 10. What have you taken from these 10 games so far? Who's impressed you the most, or who's surprised you?
I've been surprised by Huddersfield, how poor they've been.
Yeah, 'cause a lot of people were talking about them before.
Yeah, well, they wanted silverware, never mind the top 6, and they're languishing at 9th. So that's been a big surprise for me. Warrington have been great, even though they've lost the last 2, winning 8 out of 10. And Saints, I have been surprised with Saints. When they won that World Club Challenge and how good they've been, only winning a handful of games is un-Saints-like. But for me, I still think they're the team to beat. I still think they're the favourites. When it comes to it, they can perform. And Wakefield, I think they're gone.
I agree with the last comment. I just can't see Wakefield where they're going to get a win from. The surprise one for me, and nice to see, is what we wanted was, again, we spoke about the women's game, about that strength in competition across the board. Hull KR, I think they've been outstanding. I think 3rd, aren't they, in the Super League table at the moment.
Won 7, only lost 3.
Yeah, and the longer that goes on, the more confidence they gain. And I think, they truly go out into games now thinking they can beat anybody.
Right, gents, thanks for coming in. So it's international focus this weekend. It's England versus France as we build up to the World Cup in 2025. See you next week.